Nile Lawrence Stample is here. He is our Florida State analyst. The season started so promising, Nile, with that victory over Alabama, but it ends kind of the way that most expected, really getting blown out in the second half by the Gators.
Yeah, I've talked to a few people, and I almost feel like the Alabama game may have been one of the single worst thing that's ever happened in Norvell, even over the snub, because I think the snub gave him somewhat promise. It gave him like, hey, you could actually have won a national championship. It got taken away from you. Whereas the Alabama game, I think, crumbled the foundation because your guys were hungry. They were thirsty. They wanted it. And then after that, their heads went to the moon, and we obviously saw it play out, which wasn't great.
We saw what they were able to do on the ground. They just lined up and ran right down Florida State's throat. As a former defensive player, won a national title there. I can't imagine that made you feel good on Saturday.
That was a tough watch. That was a tough watch, man. And though it's been a while, anytime I played Florida, I always thought they were soft as hell. I'm just gonna be honest.
Really?
I always thought they were soft. I never once was in the swamp or in Doak playing Florida and ever felt like those linemen were doing anything or hard or strong or any of them. We always held them. We always manhandled them. So watching that game was really, really difficult. They ran the ball at will. They ran stretch right.
Mm-hmm.
They ran stretch left.
Yes.
They ran zone right. And they ran zone left. Over and over and over again, and we could not stop it.
They didn't do anything, sneaky. They just lined up and ran right at Florida State, and they couldn't stop them. Again, that's got to be twice as aggravating when you know what's coming and you still can't stop it.
It's demoralizing for a defense, demoralizing for the fans. Being in the swamp, there was really nothing we could do. And yeah, you just hope that it sucks because when you watch that game, I felt bad for the Desir twins. I felt bad for Mendrell because he got really rolled up. And it's a situation that he shouldn't have been in. Like, Mendrell's a great player. Should he be playing as much and getting as much snaps as he is? No, but it's kind of necessity. But he got rolled up over and over again, though, because he's a little bit lighter than he probably should be staying inside on these big SEC offensive linemen. And also, he probably shouldn't be playing every single down. He should be a third down guy, maybe a second down rotational type guy, but playing outside. But we're playing him inside, and we're making him work for it. And it sucks because that can get players hurt, as well as kind of ruin their development. So that was a tough watch.
They're losing. They score a second touchdown, and I'm watching this game. But by the way, I flew in and was taking an Uber from the airport to my hotel, and I was listening to William Floyd and the new guy, Jeff, I'm not even sure of his name, Culhane maybe, and Floyd was just tearing him up on the radio broadcast. I mean, it was play after play. It's like miss assignment, this and that, this and that. Well, I finally get to the hotel room and Florida State scores, and I see this Gunnar Henderson or whatever the heck his name is, the offensive lineman who they just brought in, who they score a touchdown, and he's doing the chop. Okay, Gunnar Hansen. He's doing the chop, and I'm in my hotel room, and I'm saying, are you kidding me? This is like a wrestling heel jobber where Florida's going to come back and pound them. I have such a problem with that, Nile. Is that just today's kids? Is this unavoidable? I mean, can you imagine one of your teammates mocking the Gators when you know you're going to lose the game, still getting into the fan base and giving them the chop?
Yeah, it was the same thing earlier in the season where we saw Danzy, we saw all these other players dancing, and it's just one of those things that I think is definitely a cultural thing. I think it's something with the young guys. And it kind of shows a little bit more that they are kind of about themselves and about more or less the gratification of what they saw, more as it is about the pride of the team. So that kind of sucks, but it's kind of tough because, again, they're young. You better celebrate when you can. You better celebrate when you can because you're not getting a lot of them. Right. So you better celebrate when you can. They're few and far between, so it's hard to blame them. But, again, focus up, get back in the huddle, get back to the sideline so we can try to put some points on the board.
Crickets right now out of God's country. First things first, what do you expect as early as tomorrow with early signing day?
Man, it's really going to be a toss-up. I felt confident going into the offseason that everyone was bought in. I didn't expect us to lose the way we lost to Florida. Yeah. That's a bad taste to leave in someone's mouth leaving, right?
No doubt.
To end the season. So I think things may be a little bit on the rocks. Hopefully not. But I'm hoping that things are good. What we should be doing, especially with the capital that we've been able to save by not paying Norvell, we should be making sure we're bringing these guys that are key to our success next year into the room, because if we can hold those guys down, they will keep a couple other guys that aren't as expensive to stay, as well as make sure some of these recruits actually sign on signing day.
Yeah, to me, there's a list of, and I'm trying to be optimistic here, 8 to 10 maybe a dozen players right now in this football team that you absolutely positively have to hold on to.
Yeah, and they know it. They know it. So we're going to have to put our money where our mouth is. But these are the situations that you put yourselves in. And that's the situation that Norvell's put himself in time and time again, is having to spend more money on players that maybe you didn't want, but you have no choice. So I talk to my boys a lot about this. I'm like, if you make poor decisions, ultimately the decisions become someone else's at some point in time. And that's what is happening over and over again. So we're going to have to pay the money. We're going to have to figure it out. But there are some key guys that we have to keep on this roster.
Nile Lawrence Stample, our guest. He's our Florida State analyst for a second consecutive year. Florida State is not going to a bowl, but they cannot afford to fire Mike Norvell. It's a very bizarre set of circumstances. All right, Derek, Yare, the GM, coordinators. Again, are you expecting any changes at all in Florida State's front office or their coaching staff?
Yeah, I genuinely think that Gus is going to go. He may not. The Arkansas job is gone. I'm not sure whether he's going to want to transition to a whole new staff and do that whole thing, especially if he's possibly on his way out the door in the next year or so. So he may stay, but realistically, all the signs point to him leaving. If he does leave, we got to get a new quarterback. We have to get a new quarterback. We'll have to make some big moves as far as changing this offense, getting some wide receivers in. I'm really happy to see LaWayne McCoy flourish in this last game. He made himself some money. Obviously, we've been talking about him as far as being someone that needs to be pushed, and he was able to have that come into fruition during that Florida game. So you have certain players have games that they make it theirs, and that was a game that we saw from him. No little too late going to the end of the season, because he definitely put some money in his pocket prior, because we're going to prioritize even more keeping him, even though I thought we should have in the first place. But I don't know if we see much changes as far as on the coaching staff. I don't know if they have a lot of leverage there, so we may end up keeping, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I don't know if they can afford to fire these coaches. Yeah, I mean, you fire coaches, you pay buyouts, and then you got to rehire and bring new coaches in. I mean, right now this football team is cash strapped, and every amount of money they have has to go into the football team. They have to find a way to dig deep and get themselves some good football players.
Yeah, and it sucks. You hate to talk about. I don't like talking about players. I like talking positive about them, but Tommy really put us into a corner. And when you can't throw the ball and you can't deliver the ball down the field when needed, it becomes a absolute it's a blind dog in a meat house. They're telling these guys on third down, go get them.
Right.
Put a spy on him, go get him, because it's going to be it's a 75% chance he's not going to be able to get the ball on the mark. So that puts us in a bad spot. I would like to see a transition there at quarterback. I would like to see it. I would probably like to see a new offensive coordinator. In order to give us some sort of chance, as well as bringing an extra guy in the room that can possibly change the energy in the room, may be a good opportunity as well. But yeah, that's kind of what we got there.
Yeah, Thomas Castellanos can't return. We know that there's perhaps an opportunity, depending on what the NCAA says, but they got to go in a different direction. But, once again, unless they go transfer portal and are able to bring in a young man who has a bunch of starts under his belt at another school, it feels like we're going to go through a Kevin Sperry, Brock Glenn competition, again, with guys with very little time, very little snaps at FSU.
Yeah, and I want to see the defensive line get some play. Especially, we got to get in that portal, unfortunately. Like
Yep.
we're going to have to try to make sure we can land the guys that we do have in high school in the next couple of days as far as edge rushers are concerned, as far as defensive tackles are concerned. But when it comes to the Desir twins, who I think are probably our most coveted players that we need to bring, especially if it's a package deal, and I think Mendrell, as well as his brother, both showed significant increases, even though I don't think that they played all that great, which is insane to say. I think that they could play 50%, 25, 30% better next year, which is a really scary thought. But one thing that I like is that when I was being recruited, I wasn't a very highly recruited guy, but I went to a couple combines, people saw me, and Florida State was on me from freshman year. When it comes to the loyalty that you have from teams finding you, just like they did, like Florida State found the Twins, that's a loyalty that you want to hold on to.
Yeah.
So I really do feel comfortable that Mendrell and his brother will figure out how to make it work at Florida State, because Florida State did find them. There were diamonds in the rough. They got the playing time. They got the prestige this season. Let's stick it out. And let's figure it out at Florida State and stay Florida State Seminoles this season.
Let's wrap it up with this. I thought a year ago was really interesting because they went 2-10 and it was so bad. Yet when Norvell took the Gator flag out of the Seminole head, there seemed to be, in my opinion now, a little bit of renewed enthusiasm. And fans are like, okay, it was an off year, but Norvell stuck up for the school and they sold the season tickets and they built the new stadium or put a facelift on the new stadium and they sold out. And even in situations that I thought it would taper, Wake Forest, Va-Tech, still had great fans, tons and tons of fans. You're connected. Where's this fan base now? And more importantly, where do you think they're going to be in 8 months when, the 2026 season comes around compared to what, we just witnessed this past year?
They're going to have to do some Houdini tricks this offseason. We're going to have to see some sort of new coordinator. We're going to have to see some sort of change that creates any sort of promise, something that we can hold on to that will make this upcoming season look any different than it did the past season. We're going to need to see something along those lines. That has to happen. But I think last year, and I talked about it on Twitter, last year, I think DJ Ooh was the scapegoat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Norvell played him way too long. Why is he still in? The fan base hated him. You're talking about the country is talking about this kid.
Good point.
Sit him. There's no reason why he forced his hand. I understand that you want to try to push a quarterback past his limit in order to see if he could break through that, but it was apparent and clear that he wasn't going to. Why not continue to play him? I think he was a scapegoat for a lot of that season, and then things turned this season when there was no scapegoat. Tommy was playing pretty solid in order for us to get close enough to be able to win some ball games. There was nowhere to turn. So I think where you have so much of that season was not pointed at Norvell, this season, almost 90% of the season was pointed at Norvell, and there's no hiding from that because the players played good enough for us to be able to win ball games.
I just hope Florida State's not going down the road that Nebraska went down. And, there's plenty of other schools that aren't at the level of Florida State, but have been very competitive, like a Michigan State, a Wisconsin, those type of schools that right now they're looked at as a joke, all right? I mean, Nebraska won a bunch of national titles way back when. They won 3 titles in the 90s, and, look, they gave their coach a 6-year extension. I don't think he won a game after the extension. I'm really concerned. I just don't believe you can flip the switch with Norvell and Mike Arnold is the AD, and I mean, just terrible leadership right now at our alma mater. I hate it.
Yeah, to be the devil's advocate, I don't think you can flip the switch either. But if you could flip the switch in this new era, is the time that you can actually do it. This isn't the back in the day to where you couldn't possibly bring in 2 or 3 hits. We brought in some, Deontay McCray. I think Tommy honestly would have done better if we could have figured out how to get him to score in the red zone. Tommy didn't do all that bad. He really didn't. We brought in Deuce. We made some hits. If we can make some more hits and we could put a couple things together, we could turn it around fairly quickly. Can Norvell figure it out? I'm not sure. that's the real question. But I do think that the turnaround time is a lot quicker for these schools. But I think for what you're saying is more of the culture. The culture can get saturated to a point to where we do look like Nebraska, to where teams and players don't want to come here. But there's recruits that said, I don't care whether Norvell was there or not, I'm coming to Florida State.
Yeah.
There's players that have said that in this actual carousel that we've been dealing with as far as recruiting. So like, we still have a brand. We need to have it for as long as we can get it. Yeah. And actually be able to make something into fruition with it prior to something happening.
Former Florida State Seminole. He is Nile Lawrence Stample. The holidays are upon us. What do you got going on with NLS cleaning?
Yeah, man. Same old, man. We're getting towards this back end. We're getting people's houses ready to go for the Christmas lights. We're getting a bunch of people on the schedule for next year when the Christmas lights come down, because with a lot of customers see their houses when they're putting the Christmas lights up and they're like, I need this house washed. I need it cleaned. I need the windows cleaned. So we're getting a lot of people on the books for the beginning of the year. But reach out to us. We do pressure washing, gutter cleaning, window cleaning. The number is 904-708-8802. You can reach out to us on our website at nlscleaning.net. We would love to help you with any of your exterior cleaning needs. And man, it's always go Noles. It's always go Noles.
No, there's no doubt. It's basketball season now.
It sure is.
And it'll be baseball season before you know it.
That's right.
Always good to see you now.
Yes, sir.